how anyone can find purpose in their own story. Welcome back to another episode of Irrepressible, ordinary people with extraordinary resilience. And in this episode, I'm really excited to introduce you to my good friend, actually, Krish. Now, Krish normally spends his time creating a platform with Tales to Inspire, where he helps people to look in with their own story and create a narrative to help them find purpose. And that's why I'm really excited to be able to dive today into Krish's story. I believe Krish does the work that he does because he understands his own story and the power within that. In the interview, me and Krish talk in quite a deep but sometimes humorous way about his experiences. We look at how he made it as a professional footballer and then found that that wasn't his purpose, and how that led him on a different journey of self-discovery. We look at some of the obstacles and hurdles that Krish has faced in his life, particularly around race, being Asian, and never really, when he was younger, seeing any Asian people playing football, particularly here in the UK. It's really an interesting conversation. And like I say, I'm really happy to introduce you to Krish. He's a really good friend of mine. He's doing amazing things in the world. You should go and check out Tales to Inspire. Honestly, I'm blown away by what Krish is able to do, and I'm really glad to be able to bring his story to Irrepressible. If this is the first time that you've ever been here, please make sure that you have subscribed and you turn on the notifications so you know each and every time that we post a video. Sit back, get to know Krish, go check out Tales to Inspire afterwards. You will be blown away by the stories that Krish shares. But today, I want you to enjoy Krish's. Krish, mate, how you doing?
I'm good, cheers, Josh. How are you, mate?
I'm all right. I'm good. I'm looking forward to our conversation. I feel like we've got all the banter out of the way in the last 25 minutes before we finally hit record.
There's always time for banter more. Always time for more banter,
mate. Mate, look, why don't you take a couple of minutes to introduce yourself, tell everyone about who you are and what you do.
No worries, probably won't need a few minutes, but basically I'm Krish Patel. I'm from Bolton, and I am the founder of the platform talestoinspire.com. I share people's inspirational stories around the world.
Oh, okay. Very, very quick introduction to what you do then. Tales to Inspire, it, mate. Genuinely though, like joking aside, I think Tales to Inspire is really good. And I think it will grow as well over years, because a lot of what I do is based on the power in people's stories, and I think when you've managed to tap into that, it's a big thing, isn't it? To give people a platform to be able to share the power in their stories, which is a little bit why this was born as well, really.
Yeah, I think to be honest, stories are we get told about stories when we're a kid, right? And somewhere along that line, we become an adult and we forget about the power of stories.
Yeah, it's true.
And we kind of forget that actually our whole life is one big story, and we are the authors of our own stories. But I don't know, the mystical, amazing Disney side of stories that we talked about before off air is actually something that if we can tap to that a little bit more, and then realize we all have this inspirational story, I think it's really important.
Yeah, have you found that in what you do as well, right? Because I found it in like the work when I did. This is why this was born, right? Because when I deliver these resilience webinars to everyone, and I say, "Have you ever been through adversity?" What was happening is people were just coming out and sharing these stories, and I was like, "How can you sit there and say I'm inspirational when you've been through that?" Like, have you found that most people have got that? Because I believe everyone's got a story, and actually, when you create a place to tell it, it comes out in that way.
Yeah, well, I think some of the most inspirational people are the ones who don't think they're inspiring. Like I have this saying that one person's molehill is another person's mountain. Just because you could get over it easily, that actually that could be someone's impossible. And I also have another saying that every single person has a tale to inspire. You just have to dig a little sometimes for it to come to the surface. I think it's so important. Actually, I really truly believe every single person has it within themselves, but really they're just not looking at themselves or inside for it to come to the surface.
Yeah, and it was good, but that's how we connected, obviously, through chat. How long ago was that? A year?
Feels like 5, mate, but I know Tales to Inspire has only been going for a year and a half, so yeah, it's probably about a year ago.
I reckon it was a year ago. Yeah. Look, why don't we jump straight into what this is about today then? So
why don't you take some time to tell us about the adversity that you faced that's made you feel like you've had to be resilient?
Yeah, of course. So in all seriousness, when I was 4 years old, my first memories on this earth were of me playing football. All I ever wanted to be was a professional football player. I don't remember anything else. When you asked me, Chris, what are you going to be? Football player. You know those dandelions that came across and used to catch them and used to make a wish and blow it away? Guess what I wished for? I wished professional football player. That was it. Bolton Wanderers is my team. That's who I wanted to play for. But two things. I'm half Indian, half English. So people would say if I was going to play football, I'd be on a football field. They'd say, Packies don't belong here. Go and piss off to the cricket field kind of thing. And I was a really, people call it chubby. I was a really fat kid. I know you look surprised there, Josh, but I was a really fat kid when I was growing up. So when I was growing up, no one gave me a chance. It got to the point when I was in primary school, I was about 9 years old, and the teacher went around the classroom. It's like, what do you want to be? You can be anything. And she went around, people were saying, I want to be a nurse, I want to be a pilot, an astronaut. Yeah. I put my hand up. I was like, I want to be a professional football player. She was like, thank you, Krish, but maybe it's good that you have a plan B. And
wow.
like, it was like, whoa, no one except my parents and stuff were there. They never like closed anything off for me, but no one believed it. You couldn't be. I'm an Asian lad I didn't play against anyone who plays football. It was ridiculous. And at 18 years old, I became a professional football player, which for a team called Bury in League Two, I got to play against some of the best players in the world, Paul Scholes, Paul Pogba, United, against City. But I realized that wasn't that wasn't what I wanted. And that's where my true adversity started. Because all I cared about, I have to admit, Josh, was girls, cars, money, that kind of stuff. I didn't have any of that. That's what I cared about. And I've still never had any of that. But they were the things I cared about. And then it was just, I just remember feeling so down. I was injured my first year pro. The boys got promoted. They were doing amazing. And I felt on the peripheries. I didn't feel part of the team. And it was my first time when I ever started to feel lost in life. I started to feel depressed in a football environment, and especially a professional football environment. You've got a bit like the army, I guess. You don't show weakness. You just got to be bravado. You've got to be ego. You've got to be a little bit arrogant. You've got to kind of, you mix in and fit in with the crowd. And I'd lost who I was. I'd simply lost who I was. And I remember going to the casino just to spend money in the week at 12 o'clock in the day, just playing poker, not even spending big money, and even getting in my car and I would drive and there was no destination. And I would do that so often. And that's how my life was. I was just floating. And that's when I came to get the offer. I got released from Bury. They tell you they love you. Amazing. Yes, we'll do anything for you. Get released. Guess what? I've got nowhere. Absolutely nowhere to go. I dropped out of school when I was 16. I'm like, what am I going to do in my life? And I couldn't get a new team. Try and turn up with a football club with a name like Krish Patel and with a pair of boots and you look like me. It wasn't easy. And it was just really difficult. I felt if I work harder, don't matter. I can work harder. I can do more. But if it takes me 12 steps, that it takes you 2 steps, then there's some kind of adversity, some kind of difficulty that's an injustice. So I went to America. I got an offer to go on a full ride scholarship, living in a mansion close to the beach, great facilities. And I was like, right. I was like, Mum, Dad, I am off California, girls, cars, money, cheerio. I'm going to have the time of my life. And I turned up at 20 years old in California and I realized it was all a lie. My scholarship was lied to. I was living in a 3-bedroom house with 13 other guys. We were playing football on a baseball field. It was minus 20 degrees in the winter. It was fucking freezing. I was living in Northern California. I was 12 hours from the beach. And we had 55 players for a 23-man team. People from all over the world had been lied to get there. We was under a lot of stress. And Susanville, where we live in, has 15,000 people in the population. Now, 9,000 of them are in one of the 3 prisons in the town. So maximum security prison with 4,500 people, all the murderers and rapists from out the whole of California would go to, a medium security prison, and then a kids offenders prison. So this is one depressing place. A year ago, I was playing against United. Now I'm in Susanville, California on a baseball field, minus 20 degrees, living in a house with 13 guys, like with all these prisoners around. I'm like, what am I doing in my life? Like, I literally hit rock bottom. And there was one guy in our team who was always happy. He was always smiling. He was like, bro, never give up. I hated that guy. He was called Gabby. He was from Brazil, and he had it worse than me. He was living in a basement, and he wasn't even in the starting team. So I was like, what's this guy got to smile about? What has he got to be happy? And I said to Gabby, one day I said, Gabby, I'm going back to Bolton. I can't stand this awful, the way we've been treated, this horrendous. I'm going back to Bolton. I've had enough. And he said, Krish, if you keep running away from your obstacles, you're never going to overcome anything in your life. That moment, he was right. I hated him for the fact he was right, but I kept running away. I was running away from my difficulties and depression in Bolton. I was in Susanville, California. Guess what? I was running away again. So he saw the potential in me. And this is where it's really important for anyone watching this or listening. He saw the potential in me when I didn't even see the potential in me. And when he saw that, he put his arm around me and he fostered and nurtured me, just like you would a plant or a little human being. You foster and nurture them to grow into the person they want to become. And he did that exact same thing. And he really saw the potential in me. And I'm forever grateful to Gabby. And basically, I started helping people and it felt great. I was like, whoa, like I started doing little things. And I was like, you know what? It actually makes me feel good helping people. But 2016, I'd moved to Alabama, got a great scholarship in Alabama. And I realized it had all been about Krish. It'd been the Krish show, my scholarship, my football, my education. How can I do something for others? So I decided I would run 4 marathons in 4 days from the northwest of England to the northeast of England. I'd call it the Road to Uganda campaign. And I would go to Uganda and build something sustainable. So basically, people were like, Krish, you are a nut job. You've never ran a marathon before. You're running 4 in 4 days. You've never been to Africa. So you're going to Uganda. And where's this money we're going to? The Road to Uganda campaign. What's it going towards? And I would be like, it's going towards something sustainable. And they'd be like, oh my God, this guy, well, right, whatever. So I did it, went volunteering in Uganda. I was 25 years old in 2017. 25 years old at the time. It's incredible. I volunteered with disabled children and like working in an orphanage and coaching football. So there's a bunch of kids in Uganda who are now coached, maybe have maybe not the best coach kids actually. But oh man, you'll know if I'd been there. And basically I ended up building a schoolhouse in Uganda to educate 150 children every single term from the money that was donated. And it was my first feeling of, wow, I've done something that's sustainable for others. And it felt amazing. So I went to go back to America the last 6 years of my life where everything was, and I couldn't get in the country. I got rejected, no reason. So I found myself 2018 back on my mum and dad's crappy yellow sofa. Mate, I was feeling depressed, like all again. I applied for over 250 jobs. I couldn't get a job. So I started working at Starbucks, serving people coffee. And I was like, what's my life come to? Like, what am I doing? Like, I just felt lost, mate, like so depressed. And then around that time, I saw all these homeless people in Manchester. And I was like, why is there so many homeless people? And I don't know what it's like in Swindon, mate, but there's just, it was just in your face everywhere. And everywhere you looked in the city centre, there was just a homeless person. And I was just shocked. I was in a state of shock. And I'm a curious person. So I was like, you know what? My friend has an outreach group. Let's go out and see what it's like. I went out and I saw these homeless people as people. All my stereotypes beforehand, they're all druggies, they're all alcoholics, they're all from prison, they're all these terrible people. Yes, they may have struggles with alcohol. They may have struggles with being in prison. But first and foremost, they're a human before they're a homeless. And I think somewhere along there, we've got that flipped upside down. And I started helping homeless people. I've been abused for helping homeless people. I now run this outreach group. I've been told, Krish, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. That goes through me. I hate it when people say that to me. And they say, Krish, let me think about this. Once a homeless person, always a homeless person. What's the point in doing this? You're wasting your life away, Krish, trying to help homeless people. And you know what I mean? And I've seen people come out of office blocks and I've seen them spit at homeless people. I've seen them physically and verbally abuse them. So I realized there was a big gap between homeless people and the society that walks past them. So in 2019, I was like, people would literally say to me, Krish, you should get a proper job. It wasn't even my job. I was doing it to volunteer. You should get a proper job, earn as much money as you want, live a comfortable life and be happy. And that didn't turn me on at all. Really, like, basically, I was like, that's just not me. So I decided I would swim 53 miles, all the lakes in the Lake District. I've never swam outside before. In 2019, January 2019, I decided this. Once again, everyone was like, Krish, you're a nutcase. You've never swam outside before. And I would call it the Swim for Shelter campaign, helping homeless people go from the streets back to their feet. So guess what? Did it. 2019, the summer, I was in the Lake District every weekend, swimming these lakes like no one before. I don't know if you can call it swimming, going along with the current on these lakes as really slowly. And on September the 8th, I swam 11.7 miles of Lake Windermere, the longest lake in England. It took me 9.5 hours. And that was the completion of the 53 miles. I helped 36 homeless people go from the streets into an employment program. And
Wow.
It was pretty crazy, to be fair. Getting messages from all over the world. You're inspirational. You're doing great. Like, how can we be more like you? All this kind of jazz. And I was like, I don't feel inspirational. To be honest, I felt probably the most depressed I'd ever felt in my entire life. I felt like a robot. I was working a 9-to-5 job, working as an admin behind a computer desk. I just felt numb, honestly. I couldn't keep doing these crazy challenges to make myself feel good. All I wanted to do then was to help people. And I was like, why is it so hard for me just to want to help people? I felt so trapped. And around that same time, I came across a homeless person who said to me, Krish, stories are the pages that make up this book we call life. Now, usually this homeless person, if he said that, usually I would have been like, what's this guy going on about? Stories are the pages that make up this book we call life. Straight over my head. And I'd be like, right, let's move on quick. But that one day, it gave me a light bulb moment. I was seeking something. And it was, stories are the pages that make up this book we call life. We all have a story. The question is, how can we use those stories to encourage people to never give up? That was my light bulb moment in October 2019. Within 3 weeks, I got a friend's story. He was homeless for 5 years, overcame it, wrote it down, I created talestoinspire.com, and I put it on this website. And I was like, let's see what happens. I put a couple of helplines at the bottom. And within one day, a young lady who was going to commit suicide read Danny's story, said to us she felt encouraged, and she went and got help. I was like, oof. And then within 3 days, Danny's story had been read in 15 countries around the world. And I was like, maybe this has got something, the power of these stories. So every week since, on talestoinspire.com, we've released a tale to encourage people to never give up. The one thing, you've been through something and come out the other side. To show you that transformation is never impossible. And now it's gone to the podcast. We've been on BBC, ITV, we did live events. I became an author of the Tales to Inspire book, which is amazing because I can only just write my name. So it's been incredible. And to be honest, I quit my 9-to-5 job in January of 2020 to go full-time Tales to Inspire. People are like, how are you going to earn money? I was like, no idea. I just got to go with my passion. And still to this day, to be honest, we've not earned any money out of Tales to Inspire. But it's not been about that. It's been about being connected to your purpose and knowing that you can help others. And I still get days where I feel depressed or down. I'm not going to lie, but it's so much easier having a focus where you know that you're creating value for others. Actually, yesterday was a real tough day. I just felt flat as a pancake. Imagine a Coke bottle and it's fizzy, you fizz it up, and then it just goes flat and there's no more fizz. That was me yesterday. And I was just like, come on, please fizz me up. I want to be fizzed. It wasn't happening. But you just got to embrace it. And I guess, I don't know where you want to go in my story of resilience, mate, but it's to really show you that there is nothing that you can't overcome. Simple as that.
Mate, I've heard your story obviously before,
have I ever heard it before fully through like that? I mean, we talked about it when we were doing some we were looking at producing some stuff once, but I don't think you've ever actually just told me your story in that way, have you?
No, I'm not told you. Usually you start talking over me, so it's actually been nice.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But mate, firstly, it's incredible. It's an incredible story. And actually, I proper felt it when you was talking about being younger as well, as an Asian kid who got called a packy and stuff like that when you played football.
Yeah.
That must have been, especially when it was what you loved at the time, it must have been awful. And
you know what's really strange, Josh, is so I hung about, because I'm half English, I hung about with the English lads.
Yeah.
So I never knew that I was really different from with the guys that I hung about with, like around my area. But we used to play around with other Asian lads who were not part of our group. They were but they're in the same area, but they played on their own other field. And we would call them the Packies, right? And guess what? I would call them the Packies, right? And I didn't even know what it meant, to be honest. And there's some words that I would use back in those days that I had no idea. But when I then got to primary school and I then started playing competitive football, I became the Packy. And the feeling it made me feel meant that I never called those guys the Packy again, ever.
Yeah.
It was difficult, mate, because it put me in their shoes.
And mate, I went to my primary school that I went to was a multicultural school. So we used to, before I changed schools when I was, I don't know, last year of primary school. But before then, we used to do everything. We'd celebrate all the different religious things. There were people from all different countries. But at lunchtimes, the same thing used to happen. So it used to be, and as kids, we would say it, and I'm talking at 7, 8 years old here. At lunchtime when we played football, we used to play the whites versus the Packies, and that's what you did. We didn't even know as kids that I don't think we even knew. And because I remember when obviously you'd have your different friendship groups and that, and sometimes you would get one of the Asian kids would come and play on our team, and then they used to get called a bounty because it was you're Asian on the outside and you're white on the inside. And as kids, I don't think we even really knew, wow. It's only when I look back and think, I even stumbled then saying it to you, thinking, I can't believe that we used to, but that's what happened when we was kids. It's mad.
Yeah, and it goes through me now. People used to say, it's all right, he's one of us, as if I wasn't one of us because of the color of my skin. You know what I mean? But I've also had, because I'm mixed race and half Indian, half English. I've always felt white. I've always felt English, but I've always looked Indian.
Yeah.
So I felt like I had never really fitted in. But then when I went to India, with my family and stuff on my holiday, guess what? I was the white boy. You know what I mean? And it was well, if I'm the white boy in India and then I just couldn't fit in. I remember hating the color of my skin as a kid. I actually remember.
Because I suppose you didn't feel fully part of either one.
Yeah, I didn't. Which now I'm actually so grateful I've got this coloured skin. I still think I've got some things from childhood. I've actually got a therapist that I've been seeing for the last 3 weeks. And the first thing that we really delved into was that in the childhood.
Yeah.
And it's bringing up a lot, actually, because you kind of just stick it down. You don't even think of it.
Yeah, of course.
And so it's really interesting, actually. And it's not, obviously, there's a lot of, how can it be that our colour of our skin makes us different? It just don't make sense.
No, it's crazy. But the impact, and like you say, you're doing some work on it now, the impact would have been massive when you was a kid in terms of feeling of the things that you needed to do. But in terms of the resilience, when I hear you talking, initially when you're going I'm doing the swimming and I'm doing all this stuff, my thought is wow, his resilience here is doing them things, right? Finding things to do. But actually, in a way, what you've come round to say is that was almost emotional avoidance in itself, right? That was actually a tactic to not have to deal with the ways that you feel. But ultimately, helping people seems like it's been something that's... helping people and having purpose in your life feel like two massive things that have helped you to be resilient in your life. Do you think that's true?
Yeah, definitely. It's quite interesting with my therapist. One of the things that I'm going through at the moment is I asked her, why do I do these things? Like, I'm different. People don't do this kind of stuff. They won't put themselves. Is it because I want to be accepted into society by swimming 53 miles, by running 4 marathons in 4 days? Is it because I want people to finally accept the real Krish who's doing something good? Or is it because I actually do, you know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, I love helping people, and there's nothing better. But it's really delving into, I want to know why, because then I think I'll be even more powerful when I do it. I do think I was distracting myself a little bit with the swims and stuff, not because I just didn't feel worthy. I wasn't doing anything. I was working. I was so unhappy with my life that I actually had to do something to help others. Yeah. And then there's another side of it as well, where when people say I can't do anything, or I can't do something, I've got this thing in me. I don't know what it is. You can't help homeless people, Krish. They're going to be homeless forever. It's like, watch what I do.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a trigger that to show you that you can do. If I can do this, you can do a little something to help someone.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I want to change. I don't care. I want to change the world. I want to change the way people see themselves, and I want that to be a massive movement for people to dig within and to be their own unique, authentic self, based on respect, not based off the expense of someone else. And I see it so many times that greed and anger just rule this world we live in. And I just want to shake things up from the bottom all the way to the top, mate. I want to make a big disruption. I'm serious, man. I have no idea how, but I am just ready to, and I want to create movement because there's so many unhappy people out there, mate.
Yeah, no, and I believe you. I believe you, and I believe that you will do it. I do believe that you'll do it. You're like, because you have a massive impact. And I think, like, when you say about, like, do I do the helping people? Is it a way of, like, avoidance? Am I doing it to try and be accepted? I always believe that there's more than one part of ourselves, right? I believe we've got, like, 7 or 8 parts of ourselves, right? And actually, I think both in this case, to me, feels like it's true. In that, like, you've got that part of yourself that, like, really just wants to be accepted, right? Because of feeling like you didn't fit in anywhere when you were younger. There's that other part of yourself that's, like, really into helping people and making change. And actually, when you bring those parts of yourselves together, it makes sense that you would, that bit that's, like, really into helping people is like, hold my beer to the other part of yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't worry, I'll get us accepted. Watch this. So, like, I think actually that both answers are true. And I think that's true with anything, by the way, that, like, if it doesn't, I always say, if it doesn't contradict itself, then you ain't gone deep enough anyway. Do you know what I mean? But
love that. I love everything contradicts itself with me. Oh, crap. Well, to be honest, you talked about something there, deepness, right? And I could get into this all day, but I often feel that I live in a very shallow world with very shallow relationships with many people. What I seek is depth. I want to connect to people. I really want to not just be this pally thing. I want to, like, get to know who the true Josh Connolly is. And I, at a deep level, because I truly feel that's where we need to be. I'll ask you, how are you, Josh? But I won't be ready to accept if you start going off on one, If I say, how are you doing, Josh? I need to be there because I want to know how you actually are.
Yeah.
We say,
is that why you never ask me? Is that why you never ask me?
I never ask. Just go straight into it, mate.
You never got no time to be there and listen.
Well, Zoom only allows 40-minute calls, doesn't it? So that's why.
Not mine, mate. We've got an hour. We've got plenty, as long as we want on this one.
Oh well. Next time we'll go on my Zoom account then, shall we?
No, but like, I think it's really powerful, mate. I think, like, particularly the part about purpose. Purpose feels like it's a big part of your life, right? Following your purpose.
Well, it is. And I did a post about it recently about identity and your purpose. And as a footballer, and this is something about all football, anyone in sport as a kid, you're told, like, my identity was football. My purpose was football. So when I got to 25 years old or 24 years old and I'd stopped playing football in America, I had nothing. Who was Krish? Like, when I stopped playing professional football at 20, who was me? Who I couldn't. When people ask you, Krish, like, who are you? So I say I'm Krish, and what do you do? I'd always said I play football.
Yeah.
Now what do I say? I work at Starbucks serving people coffee. How negative, like that is that my purpose? Is that who I am? You know what I mean? And I was relating the two together in this very shallow way. So your purpose is everything, I feel.
Yeah, mate, incredible. I'm a bit conscious of time, so I do want to ask you one more question. Based on everything that you've experienced up until now, right? What would you say the biggest learning you've had about yourself?
The biggest learning that I had about myself is that if you endure, you can achieve anything. But the question is, am I willing to endure? Because then it's amazing how adaptable I can be. And I think as humans we can be. But the question is, I need to sit down and say to myself, am I willing to endure this or not? If I'm not, then I need to go in a different direction. But if I am, then guess what? I'm going to come out the other side and I'm really going to transform my life tenfold. So I think the main thing is obstacles are actually opportunities. I'm not seeing obstacles as, oh no, why me again? I'm not the victim. I'm seeing these as, you know what, this is another opportunity for me to transform my life. So now I see the reason for living is transformation. So to endure so that I can have the biggest transformation, so that I can encourage others to endure and have the biggest transformation.
Mate, incredible. Incredible. I knew it was a good question. Mate, before we shut this out, where's the best place for everyone to come and find you?
Yeah, on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, Tales to Inspire. On our website at www.talestoinspire.com. And just come to Bolton if you fancy coming for some food, a curry, or a kickabout. I'm always around. Josh, you're invited, but he's never turned up. Just let you know, guys. I'm not sure. Either he doesn't like curry, doesn't want a kickabout, or he just doesn't like Bolton. One of those three.
I think you got there on the third one.
Oh,
I love curry.
Oh, really?
And I love football. Curry's my favourite food, yeah.
Oh, well, happy days, and you're always welcome, mate.
Well, yeah. Well, next time I'm in Bolton.
which hasn't happened in his 42 years so far.
Mate, been an absolute pleasure. I'll put all the links to everything in the comments as well, of everything that we do. And mate, can't wait to share it with people.
Of course. Thank you for having me on, and thank you for keeping this secret until now.